No, not Pew. Lepew. Pepe Lepew is my name.
I went to the secondhand store and got a whole bunch of cheap pillows. I have seen more than one runner sled collapse. And it was usually a frozen swamp, but not always. Hello once again and welcome to Comedy Parenting Radio. Today's topic is going to be about sledding is not for wimps. I've got the Begley gang here, and these guys are expert sledders. We live high in the mountains of Colorado, and we'll get back with that in just a moment.
Treesock Press wants your cheeks to hurt. You can laugh a little, or you can laugh a lot. When you read other children's books, you have to force yourself to smile now and then. But when you read Dad the Tooth Fairy Didn't Come, you laugh so hard your cheeks hurt. It's your choice, fake smiles or cheeks that hurt. Pick up your copy of Dad the Tooth Fairy Didn't Come wherever lousy comedy books are sold. My cheeks hurt just reading this.
You're listening to Comedy Parenting Radio.
We're back with Comedy Parenting Radio. Today's topic, sledding is not for wimps. And we got the Begley kids up here in the studio. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing very good, thank you.
Has anybody been sledding recently?
Yes, just this afternoon.
That's just a couple. I had to call these guys in from sledding just to do the podcast. I'll tell you what here. And we'll get to that in just a minute there. But is it true that sledding is not for wimps?
Definitely.
Yes. Yep.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's not for the lighthearted with the stuff that you have to do. If you wimp out and get scared, you might actually get into a worse situation.
You know what? If you're actually scared, you'll just get really scared, and then you'll steer the wrong way and probably go off the sled run and crash.
Well, I have to tell you, though, people around the United States and the world don't necessarily sled quite like we do, do they?
No.
No. Let me tell you about how it was back in Indiana growing up. The really, really big hill was called Harrison Hill. And Harrison Hill is where everybody in the county, in Elkhart County, came to Harrison Hill to go sledding on Sunday afternoons. And that hill was probably about, oh my word, it's probably like, I don't know, 200 feet down with a bump in the middle.
Really?
And a couple of other ways to go.
Wow.
Yeah, so everybody came with their different sleds to Harrison Hill on Sunday afternoons. And our family just happened to live across the road from Harrison Hill. So me being a Begley kid and having all kinds of different sleds, we were on Harrison Hill all the time, and we got to be experts with our sleds. We could go everywhere on Harrison Hill perfectly. However, Harrison Hill had I don't know, it was like a dip or something like that, but it was some kind of a launch halfway down. And so what happened was people came up with runner sleds. You guys are familiar with runner sleds?
Yep.
Yes.
Tell me what a runner sled's like.
A runner sled is quite fun. It's better if you go head first on them.
They look like they look like a helicopter's landing pad, but with boards where the helicopter should be.
There you go. Yeah. And so it's got runners, it's got handles to steer. Yeah. And yeah, normally you would lay head first. As long as there's nothing to hit, it's okay to go head first on the runner sleds. So we would launch and go down there, and when you hit that little thing in the middle of the hill, it launched you, and you probably went about anywhere from 1 to 4 feet in the air and landed on your runner sleds.
Ooh.
Sounds brutal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We should go to Indiana.
Well, we should, although Harrison Hill is now closed to public sledding.
Aw, man.
Yeah, too bad. Anyway, what was really fun to see, though, if you're a little kid, you could fly off this thing, and it was kind of brutal landing, but then you had a big run out at the bottom. But the coolest thing of all is when you would have a big fat guy go down the hill on the runner sled. I have seen more than one runner sled collapse when the fat guy landed the sled. So remember, folks, it's not over till the fat guy lands the sled.
I was just about to make that joke.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, and just kind of bent the runners, and then these guys would kind of limp away. You're listening to Comedy Parenting Radio. We're talking about Sledding is Not for Wimps. We'll be back in just a moment.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
So you're giving up? Just like that?
Giving up on what?
On getting an inheritance from a distant relative.
Don't you think if there were a billionaire in the family, we'd know about it by now?
Listen to me. We are one phone call away from riding horses on our own private polo grounds. One call from christening yachts, having a butler, using summer as a verb.
How do you figure?
Look, everyone's got a rich uncle somewhere. It's statistics. So the best thing you can do is just prepare for the inevitable.
Right, which is why I thought maybe it would be smart to take control of my finances. You know, start using a budget, get out of debt, set some retirement goals.
Budgets? Debt? You watch your mouth. Retirement shouldn't be a goal for us. It should be a way of life.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
'Cause you start out stealing songs, then you're robbing liquor stores and selling crack and running over school kids with your car. So don't download this song. The record store's where you belong. Go and buy.
Okay, we're back, Comedy Parenting Radio. Here's Sledding is Not for Wimps. I got to tell you one more thing about Harrison Hill before we get out of this part of the subject, and that is at the bottom of Harrison Hill, if you had the right snow conditions, you could go across the runout area and go across a swamp.
Ooh.
And it was usually a frozen swamp, but not always.
Usually.
If the swamp was frozen and the sledding conditions were just perfect, you could go past the swamp, across the flats, and there was a barbed wire fence. I made it to the barbed wire fence just a couple of times. Have you guys had any good stories from sledding up on the Hines Ranch?
I have. Caleb made this run he called Zigzag, where it was these little teeny tight trees, lots of them, and you would have to get on your sled and kind of squish in, and then to turn, you would have to grab onto a tree and swing around the tree, and then to turn the other way, you would have to swing around the other tree. And
it would help if we explained what kind of sled you're on and what the snow conditions were like, because if people are thinking runner sleds, that's not the case, is it?
No.
What kind of sled is it?
It's a... What kind of sled are they called, Dad?
I don't know. It's Torpedo is the brand name on some of them. It's plastic. It looks like a bathtub a little tiny bit. You know, the sides go up about, 4 inches high?
Yeah.
And it's tapered on the front. So you sit in this plastic thing, go down. Go ahead. Zigzag.
And you would have to go down, and at the end, there was this 18-inch culvert, and you would lie down on your sled and zip through the culvert, and if you didn't stay completely flat up against your sled, you would get gashed by this cut piece in the middle of the culvert.
Or if you sat up, your head would kind of go along the top of the culvert.
Yeah.
Yeah, the culvert sledding was a lot of fun at the ranch. We had a couple of them there. There was one that was 2 feet around, and it went about 50 feet, and when we got ice in there, you would go shooting through this culvert, which had a launch at the other end, sort of a Calvin and Hobbs kind of a launch, you know?
Yeah.
It's Comedy Parenting Radio. We'll be back in just a moment with more Sledding is Not for Wimps.
And what's his name?
Tiny.
How do you know he's the world's smallest horse?
Look at him.
No, what I meant was he's small, but usually when somebody says they have the world's smallest horse, you expect, some kind of proof.
Well, I dare anyone to find one smaller.
What you got going over there, Elijah?
Well, I have a story about a time when it was sort of a crash, but it was a lot of fun. I was racing Davy down what we call the Acorn Hill because it has tons of acorns in the summer, and we go collect acorns there. And it's really incredibly steep, like really steep. So if you were skiing, it would be about a black. So Davy and I went flying down it as fast as we could, and at the very bottom, we didn't quite see it, but at the very bottom, I crashed, went out of my sled, and got caught on an old barbed wire fence, and was sort of hanging there for a while until Davy was able to pull me out.
He untangled you from the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody ever been on the McClintock?
Yeah. It's more for McClintocking than sledding.
Well, tell me what the name came from.
It came from the John Wayne movie McClintock, where they have the big mud fight. And they have the big mud slide, and everybody's going sliding down and trying to climb back up and then getting pushed back down and climbing up and in a big mud bog.
So our McClintock is right outside the house here, and it's pretty steep, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And so how do you use the McClintock?
Well, you wrestle and try to push the other person down.
And slide down this really steep hill.
Of course, there are some big people who seem to dominate everyone else.
They just throw you off the edge.
Top and chuck everyone down.
What's at the bottom of the McClintock?
The septic tank.
A half-buried septic tank.
A half-buried septic tank. So you guys don't do the McClintock right away until we get more snow, do you?
No.
No. Plus, there are big rocks that you might get back on. So we
it's a little bit rough down there.
We have more than 6 inches.
I have a story about it. Well, today I it's kind of a funny story. Elijah might be better of talking for this story.
Why don't you tell the story?
Well, from my perspective, Elijah was building a snow cave, and I said, I'm going to go have some fun. So I went zooming down it. Elijah came over and saw the edge. Last thing I knew before I crashed was I saw Elijah doing a thumbs up. But I was just going down McClintock as fast as I could, rammed straight into the snowbank, went down a couple of more...
You mean the septic tank?
No, I didn't ram into the septic tank. Septic tank. But I didn't ram into it. I went around it, and then I went and almost crashed straight into the bunch of trees that is down by the lower storage shed, if you know what that is. From my perspective, is I was digging a snow cave, and I hear yelling, and I pull my head out of the snow cave and go looking. And I see Josiah, arms flailing out of the sled, flying down, hit like a snow bar down there, and go flying out of his sled. And I gave him a thumbs up. That's the last thing that I saw.
I have a story kind of like that. I wanted to get a running start to launch myself off the septic tank.
Do you realize how weird that sounds?
Probably. I got a running start. I ran, jumped, and I just flew off the septic tank. I went down across the road and up onto the other side. And just on the other side, there's a big patch of bushes. Mm-hmm. I went down through the bushes. There's actually a little path down there now. And flew down
Nothing
there.
like a human bulldozer making new sled runs.
Yeah. Flew down. I'm dodging trees and bushes I can hardly see, and crashed down at the bottom into a big tree, and then wade through 2.5 feet of snow to get back up the steep, very steep hill.
You've been listening to Comedy Parenting Radio. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming out, sledders.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No problem.
And when you guys go, you can take that broken runner sled with you, okay?